part of it because they're going to try to maximize the points. And what happens is you get a whole bunch of essays that sound just alike. Anybody else readers? Because reading, they're clearly clicking a form. And so if someone doesn't see value, like that score on that AP exam is not meaning anything to them, then why are they going to follow a rote? I mean, we're not going to get authentic writing. We're not going to get their authentic voices. So what I found was taking my students outside and doing some of these writing ideas outside was I got a lot more authentic writing. They didn't associate it with the type of writing that was in the class. Now, that becomes the teacher's responsibility to figure out how to bridge what they create to what you have to produce inside. But my theory is that the classroom is filled with artifacts that are associated with certain behaviors, and if they are students who have not met expected benchmarks, they're associated with past failures or being told that they weren't creative or not good at writing. So physically removing them from that setting frees them up, and they don't necessarily associate it with that rubric, got to do it this way kind of thing. So let me go back to my. Thank y'all for sharing that. All right, so if we think about what propels us to write personally, say there's his pseudonym is Stephen with the snake. What propels us to write? Usually something happens in our life and we want to tell somebody about it. Or something happens and it gets us to thinking about something and we're like, oh, we need to work this out. And it usually comes back to a sensory experience of some sort. Even if it's stewing for a while, there was something somebody said to us and made us feel a certain way, or something we noticed, and we're like, that sensory experience leads to us wanting to tell somebody about it. And that's as simple, and it seems like obvious. My friend who was the department chair when I first started teaching, when I tell her about all this, she's like, Christy, that is common sense. I'm like, I know, but it ain't happening a lot of times in the classroom. It seems like common sense. So the reason I chose this picture was this is from my dissertation study that took place in April and May of this past year. And he's one of our good old country boys in Cherokee County, and he didn't think twice about going and picking up that black snake and bringing it to the rest of the group. Now, some people freaked out about it. Some people got a little brave and petted it, but when he was walking to release it again and back to the wild there. And honestly, I got a little nervous about it too. We almost stepped on a copperhead one time. That's another story. But this was the thing they wrote about most. They wrote about this over and over and over again. They referred to it. It became like a touchstone throughout the entire experience. It marked, that time when Ethan brought that snake. Yeah, I mean, it was a time marker, and it was in research speak, it was a critical moment. So, what I have found to be quite effective when I'm doing this is the idea is, like I said, we're going outside of the classroom to do some personal writing, and then it's up to me as a teacher to bridge it back to something formal. But we start with a mentor text, then we have what I call an artifact prompt, and then the writing prompt, and all three are related. They're tied together in some fashion. And when I say artifact prompt, I just mean that it is some type of sensory engagement. It is physically getting involved with something. A text to inspire us, an experience to ignite thought, and a chance to create without rules, without that in-class pressure. So, what I would like y'all to do, and I know we're kind of, well, let me just go ahead and let me do the mentor text first. Y'all know this book? Oh, it's okay. I'll show it to you in just a minute. But our focus for the reading of the Inspiring Mentor text It's about what is the power of words? What's the value of words? All right. So as we are reading, you'll see the second block on the handout is to just jot your thoughts as I'm reading about what does Jerome learn about words? What does he learn about his words? What does he learn about himself? And anything else you notice as we read. Okay? Now, the point of this is that I'm going to ask you at the end to write about words or a self-reflective option too. But I always tell my students that words are your friends, like the sharks, you know. But in the movie,
Fish are
Nemo,
friends, not food.
that's right. The sharks. Words are your friends, and like my mama always told me, you can't have enough friends in this world, and you can't have enough words in this world. As a writer, a speaker, a communicator, the more words you have, the better off you're going to be. All right, the more effective you're going to be. So I'm going to read to you The Word Collector by Peter Reynolds. Collectors collect things. Some people collect stamps. Some people collect coins. Others collect rocks. Some collect art. Some collect bugs. Others collect baseball cards. Some people collect comic books. And Jerome, what did he collect? Jerome collected words. He collected words he heard. My trip to Peru was perfectly pleasant. Certain words caught his attention. You can already see their goal right this. I'm trying to teach those students to pay attention to the words that they encounter on TV or social media or whatever it is. If you don't know it, be curious. He collected words he saw. Certain words jumped out at him. He collected words he read. Certain words popped off the page. Short and sweet words, two-syllable treats, and multi-syllable words that sounded like little songs. And the words he has up here, kaleidoscope, guacamole, geometry, wonderful, symphony. And then the short and sweet ones, spark, bloom, drift, dream. And the two-syllable, treasure, motif. That's what we're teaching. Whisper, candid, hover, glimmer. Aromatic, vociferous, effervescent. There were words he did not know the meaning of at first, but they were marvelous to say. There were words whose sounds were perfectly suited to their meaning. Tyrannosaurus rex, molasses, torrential, smudge, bellow. Y'all, I'm telling you, my students learn vocabulary from this book. When I finish reading this, y'all, I'll tell you about the whole picture book thing. Jerome filled his scrapbooks with more and more of his favorite words. Jerome's collections grew. He began organizing them. Dreamy, science, sad, action, poetic. One day, while transporting them, Jerome slipped and his words went flying. As he began to pick them up, he noticed his collections had become jumbled. Big words next to little words. Sad words next to dreamy words. Wow, we just might be starting some poetry, huh? Jerome began stringing words together. Words he had not imagined being side by side. And what he's got here is whisper, symphony, electric peace on one line. And then savor, dreams, cascading stars. He used his poems. He used his words to write poems. He used his poems to make songs. They moved. They delighted. words were his most powerful. I understand. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. You matter. Jerome eagerly collected more and more of his favorite words. The more words he knew, the more clearly he could share with the world what he was thinking, feeling, and dreaming. One breezy afternoon, Jerome climbed the highest hill, pulling a wagon packed with his word collection. He smiled as he emptied his collection of words into the wind. Now we must not litter, but we're speaking metaphorically. He saw children in the valley below, scurrying about, collecting words from the breeze. Jerome had no words to describe how happy that made him. And that's the end. And the end part says, reach for your own words, tell the world who you are and how you will make it better.